Bonjour tout le monde. Hi everyone, my name is John.
And I'm Althea, so hello everybody. So today, as our teacher already mentioned, we'll be talking about our qualitative research project which we did last winter semester, which is called En français s'il vous plaît. So to kickstart our presentation, we'd like to show you a short clip made and published by the Quebec government as a way to promote the French language.
Ça commence bien la conversation.
Bonjour. Bonjour.
Bonjour, c'est ça, juste bonjour. Ça s'apprend.
Genou, hibou, bijou, caillou, joujou.
Et ça fait plaisir à entendre.
Merci beaucoup.
Des fois, ça laisse son mot.
Je t'ai toujours aimé.
Ça s'affiche ici, là, là-haut.
Comme ça, c'est parfait.
Ça fait rêver, ça fait avancer. Ça fait parler, beaucoup parler. Beaucoup. Ça va, Nico?
Comment ça s'écrit?
Comme ça se prononce. Ça s'exige.
J'ai quelque chose à ajouter, Kelly.
Ça se choisit.
Oui, ça.
C'est sûr que ça se demande. Provocante. Ça mérite toute notre attention.
Ça, c'est important.
Surtout, ça dépend de nous.
De moi?
Oui.
Et moi?
Oui.
Moi aussi?
Ben oui, ça dépend de nous tous.
Juste pour être sûr, ça, c'est
Le français, c'est ça.
C'est tellement ça.
As you have seen in the video, the promotion of French language is very important in Quebec to protect its identity. More so, the French language has dominated the Quebec society from its culture and traditions to how people in it communicate on a daily basis. Thus, to preserve and protect the language, laws have been created which aim to keep French dominant in the province. One of these laws, which is the main topic of our research, is Bill 96, which was passed a few years ago. This law, which is a revision of the current French charter, has impacted the education system such that Anglophone CEGEPs now have admission caps. Students have to take more French classes, and some of them would have to take their program courses in French, and a lot of them would have to pass the French exit exam in order to graduate. Therefore, this research revolves around the opinions of college students because nobody understands the impacts of Bill 96 better than the students themselves.
So to be more specific, our research revolves around the impact of the integration of Bill 96 on CEGEP students, and with this in mind, we constructed the following research question. How do CEGEP students from Vanier and Saint Laurent colleges feel about the Bill 96, which was implemented in schools the previous year? We found that this research was significant specifically for us as it provided deeper understanding on the language policies that are being implemented not only in our province but also in other countries, the importance of cultural preservation, the question of identity, the rights of those in the minority groups, and of course, college education and students. So for this research, we conducted a few one-on-one semi-structured interviews through convenience sampling. This type of sampling consists of us recruiting volunteers to do the interviews. And of course, to minimize any type of harms towards the interviewees, we created a consent form for them to fill up or sign up prior to each interviews. And then after conducting the interviews, we then analyze each content, which then helped us extract 3 of the main themes that we're going to be talking about today. So, as you can see here for our interview guide, these are some of the things that were touched upon. So the background of the interviewees, their knowledge on language laws, their transition from high school to college, their general academic performance, and more. And for our consent form, we made sure to include and debrief them about our general purpose for our project, how we'll proceed with the interview, and of course assure them with the confidentiality and privacy of the whole thing, and mention certain risks and benefits for participating. And so these are the 3 main themes that appeared during our content analysis. So their point of view on the language laws in Quebec, impact of Bill 96 in colleges, and the future of students in colleges in Quebec.
The first theme that we're going to talk about is the general point of view on language laws in Quebec. Overall, we found that whether they be from a French or English CEGEP, students have recognized the importance of speaking and learning French in Quebec. Students who are immigrants have also said that knowing French is crucial in living and integrating in the Quebec society. In addition, students have expressed that they understand why the government would want to protect the language, and they understand why the government is doing it. However, some worry that this might make people's lives even harder and keep them in the province and not let them go anywhere else. One person even said that the provisions of this law could be extreme in some cases, such as in healthcare services, where they could refuse service if they could refuse service in anything other than French. When it comes to freedom, students have pointed out that they want to be able to speak in a language that they want without anybody forcing them to do so. They also said that the law is too restrictive and could be discriminatory in some cases. For example, students have said that they think that the law is challenging their freedom of education. Although they have no problem with the French language itself, they want to be able to freely choose how they want to learn, how they want to receive their education, and pick the school that they want to go to without having any barrier whatsoever. In terms of speaking multiple languages, students think that although French should be prioritized in Quebec, the government shouldn't ignore that its people are already bilingual. Therefore, they suggested that the Quebec government should acknowledge that the people are already multilingual, work with it, and focus on promoting French instead of forcing it onto everyone. As these new laws are implemented, students believe that the division between the English and French communities are getting bigger, and it's getting worse as the law starts to dictate how public services are going to be offered. Again, students have no problems with the French language itself because it is the official language of Quebec, but rather on the way that it is imposed and forced onto them. They believe that when the government forces French onto its people, they're only discouraging it instead of actually encouraging their people to do it.
So we're now moving on to the second theme, which is Bill 96 and colleges. So a few students reflect on the possible repercussion of the bill's implementation in colleges. The first one being the possible division in schools. One student states that since the bill only applies to non-certificate students or holders, this means that the only ones that are being affected at the moment are those from French high schools and immigrants who do not hold such certificate. This, according to this student, creates a division between both Francophones and Anglophone students. Then comes the college applications. For many students, applying to college is a major task. So due to the bill, many apply to French schools due to their worries or fear of not being accepted. One student responded the following: "So it disrupted my plans. I was afraid of being rejected from the college I wanted to go to. So I opted for a French school instead." And through further research, it was also revealed that the acceptance rate of French high school graduates in English colleges were lower due to the bill's implementation as a way to prioritize the Anglophone students. Now comes the students' performance. We gathered varying responses for this aspect. While some students say that their academic performance wasn't really affected by the law, some also say that they have to work harder and give more attention in their French classes. Also, 2 students show eagerness to use the provided resources given by the school as assistance. So with these responses, it demonstrates the connection between students' language proficiencies and their academic performance. Then, of course, comes the infamous F, or the Épreuve uniforme de français, or in English, French exit exam. So for this semester marks the first time that the F will be done in English cégep schools since its implementation last fall. So similar to the English exit exam, the French exit exam also requires passing to be able to graduate college or to get the college certificate. So, given the exam's strict requirements, two of the students expressed their concerns on possibly not passing due to the mistakes that they might do during the exam.
For our last team, we asked participants how they envision their future and the future of the education system in Quebec. For example, some people said that they are planning on leaving Quebec if the government starts to implement stricter language laws. However, some people said that they are planning on staying in Quebec because they are planning on going to a university in Montreal. Looking at university studies, students have expressed that they are worried that language laws might extend to universities where they're going to have even harder classes than their CEGEP level right now. When it comes to the quality of education in English CEGEPs, students have said that they are skeptical on whether the existing teachers at Vani would have enough French to teach their classes in French. One person even asked, if you can't understand anything in French, could you not even say a single word in English during class? Now, talking about teachers, because of language laws, students have become even more skeptical on whether the school would prioritize hiring teachers who are good or hiring teachers who are speaking in French. As much as teachers are also affected by Bill 96, our participants have shown empathy to their teachers who might eventually lose their jobs because they don't speak French or they belong in a foreign language department. As we all know, having more French classes means less complementary classes, so some complementary classes or foreign language classes might be removed as Bill 96 gets fully implemented. Finally, the students think that these language laws are disturbing the system that has been relatively unchanged for a very long time. And to sum it up, the introduction of Bill 96 has raised concerns and worries on the future of students, teachers, and the education system in Quebec.
So now, after analyzing all our interview transcript and analyzing certain articles pertaining similar themes as us, comes our general discussion and conclusion of the whole research. So as shown in our results, there's a common agreement with the government's aim to preserve and protect the French language. However, there's a dissatisfaction with the way it's being forced. As one research claim, language training can help and do help newcomers. However, francophonisation, as they call it, has not helped with the integration but has hindered it. There's also a social division being created between the Anglophones, the Francophones, and those from the cultural and linguistic minorities. A research by Butler further develops this by revealing that how certain people are being prevented from accessing essential social and financial services. So our research also helped us discover how the language laws challenge the freedom of speech and education of students, and how the addition of the F also raises concerns for students' academic success and opportunities. An article from Prédefond and Pecker claimed that such policies should consider culture, religion, and such, and focus more on ensuring belongingness. Another article by Kotsoni reveals the one reason behind the Quebec's implementation of language laws, which is due to the falling numbers of French education. So, to summarize our whole research, we explored the different views of CEGEP students, more specifically those from Vanier and Saint Laurent, about the Bill 96 implementation in colleges. And with this, we gathered varying responses from each student. While most agree about the importance of preserving the French language, many also believe that the way it's being implemented is quite forceful.
Generally, people with French background or those who are from a French CEGEP do not seem to be affected to a great extent on language laws based on their personal experiences and how language laws has affected them personally. In contrast, it is mostly Anglophone students who do not have a strong French background who have expressed concern over their education and their success. In addition, whether they be proficient in French or not, students have expressed their opinions based on how it has affected them and the people who are around them. Also, most of our participants have said very similar things when it comes to the negative effects on minority rights and how Bill 96 has caused more divisions and problems instead of promoting French in Quebec. Finally, although most of our participants already have an adequate level in French, they have shown strong empathy towards those who are deeply affected by language loss in Quebec. As this research provided a better understanding on how college students are impacted by the initial provisions of Bill 96, we recommend that future research be done when Bill 96 gets fully implemented in Anglophone CEGEPs. In addition, research could also be done on English CEGEP students after the first round of the F or the French exit exam, which is set to happen in a few weeks from now. Finally, as new provisions of Bill 96 continue to occur in different sectors of Quebec society, like in healthcare, education, economy, businesses, and government services, it is equally important to further study the population to better understand how language loss affect the population and the community in which they live. So these are our references, and we'd also like to acknowledge and thank Dr. McEnroe here for her help and guidance, and our group mates Vincenzo Reale and Lara Sorolla for their help.
Yeah, so that's it, everybody. For those who are interested to learn more about our research and all of that, and who might have missed some of the quotes, you may scan this QR code, which will lead you to all of the quotes that we use for this presentation. If not, there's also a poster right around the exit door if you'd like. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions or comments?
We have time for some questions. I'm coming up there. I'll pass you the microphone. Just keep your hand raised, please.
Thank you. My apologies for the track. I was wondering, in your research, did you encounter any articles or any how Bill 96 and language laws in general in Quebec, how the promotion of French and the erasure of other languages impacts Indigenous populations? I know that for immigrants, there is a focus on learning French above everything else, but I assume that it would be different if the other languages that they're learning are also Indigenous to Quebec, and how well the government has been preserving those cultures, or if they've just been erasing them in favor of French.
Sorry, could you repeat the first part of your question, please? You asked about the research.
I was wondering if in the research that you did and the articles that you read, if it mentioned anything about Indigenous students, or how Bill 96 intersects with Indigenous languages, and whether or not exemptions are being made, or whether the Quebec government is effectively erasing the teaching of those languages in favor of French.
Yeah, so like for the articles that we read, there was no specific one that talked about the Indigenous people's part for this bill, but I know that recently colleges such as like Dawson has been promoting ways to exclude Indigenous people from the bill or the French exit exam itself. I don't know if that answers.
And most of the articles that we found are talking about minorities in general. Like, for example, the articles that we found are talking about how Law 101 or how other language laws around the world are affecting the language minorities and not specifically Indigenous people.
Next question. Is there another question? Okay, so I invite you to please put your hands together loudly to congratulate John and Alfred today.